When it comes to the UK, the news is sometimes hit and miss, but you do sometimes get a bit of a chuckle in the old news, don't you? Hi guys, it's the 24th of September and this is the roundup of the news. I'm sorry of late, I've been a little bit lax on the news with work and, a few other things going on in my life. I'm a little bit behind. But today I have caught up with the news and I have to say, watching Keir Starmer demanding the release of the sausages was ingenious. I mean, how do you get hostages and sausages mixed up? What was on his mind? Did he skip breakfast? I don't know. Something must have happened. But we're going to stay on Keir Starmer. Not only is he a full-on idiot in speeches, but we know there's a ban on smoking coming in pub beer gardens and even on the pavements outside governmental buildings and the likes. But it was the pub gardens that got me, and it's the pub gardens that got everybody. Because it makes absolutely no sense. Why would you want to ban people trying to enjoy themselves from enjoying themselves? And I said in another video, this is purely for the fact that they don't want people communicating. Why do you think they're attacking social media like they are? They don't want people talking to each other. They much prefer you inside your own home talking to yourself, which your only outlet is then Facebook, knowing if you put a post on Facebook, you're going to get a knock on the door by Starmer's Stasi. So, don't smoke in pub beer gardens. And what he's hoping for is just don't go out. You still buy his alcohol, still buy his beer because he needs that tax. And by all means, you need to buy them cigarettes because the amount of tax they make on them cigarettes is an absolute fortune. They don't want you to quit smoking. They don't want you to quit drinking. They want you to quit enjoying yourself. They want you in the house doing the things that are bad for you by yourself. So there's absolutely no point to doing what you're doing, is there? That's what he's aiming for. Now, what cements this even more is when you look at the new plan that's just come out, the one I've just heard about today, which is early closing times for pubs. Why is he attacking pubs? A couple of weeks ago, it was a full-on attack on old people. Now, he is still doing that, but he's also attacking pubs. So, why? Why the push to attack pubs? Like I said, he wants us all just not talking, not communicating, Because if people get together and talk and make sense, then people start to understand what kind of government they are and what they are working towards. That is what he's scared of. And they are working towards something very scary. Something I've come across today, I'm going to look into it properly because I've only heard one article on it, was a NatWest tracker that is tracking people's purchases and scolding them on the importance of climate change if they buy too much meat and dairy products. Now, this is something I've warned about for a long time. This is what I warn against CBDCs for, because it gives them the ability to track your purchases. Now, NatWest is already trying to do this. We seen this a couple of months ago where banks weren't giving customers their money. They weren't carrying cash on the premises. Now, that was worrying. But when you see NatWest coming out, I don't know how right it is. Please, I'm just finding this out myself. So I will look into it. I just have to report what I hear. And I'm going to preface with this. If this is right, it's absolutely disgusting. Because banks should not have the ability to check your purchases. Banks should not send you a text message to scold you because you want a quick steak and some cheese. It is none of their business. Also along these lines, I read that the DWP are cutting down on fraud by gaining access to customers' bank accounts to check their ingoings and outgoings. Now, don't get me wrong, to an extent I understand why this would be important, but not everybody is defrauding the system, apart from the politicians and the people who's actually in the system. The regular people aren't really committing fraud. This is just another step. It's another push to check what you are purchasing, check what you are buying, check what you are spending, check what you've got coming in, what you've going out. They want to monitor everything you're doing to make sure that you're aligning with climate change. That's their whole rhetoric. David Lammy has come out and said that climate change poses more of a risk than terrorism and war. David Lammy, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? While they check in the general public's bank accounts, maybe we should be checking theirs, because they've been in the news with their, what is it, donation scandal. I think that's what it is. It's a scandal. Now, to me personally, it does not matter. If someone gives a politician money to buy new clothes, fair enough. But when you're doing this and you're earning upwards of £150,000 a year, you know, and you are already worth millions, and you are getting donors to purchase clothes, purchase tickets for Taylor Swift or for Arsenal football or the likes, you know, questions have to be asked. Why the questions have to be asked, it's not a fact of them getting money for goods. It's a fact that they're politicians and they are in charge of a country. They are in charge of the public purse. Now, if people are giving you donations to buy fancy things or have fancy experiences, what are they getting in return? These are the questions the British public really have. It's not a case of you get £100,000 to spend on suits and nice clothes and football boxes, you know. It's a case of what are you offering, what are you giving in return for them donations. Now, with this mindset, I would like to see all these donations scrapped. Or at least, if they don't scrap them, a complete understanding to anybody offering donations, there will be nothing in return. And if there is, legal consequences will then follow. I think if that was the case, it would put a lot of people off. Obviously, we need to build the law back up. We need a legal system. But, you know, once we get that, we'll make that law. But it's just sheer hypocrisy from this Labour. I mean, I'm going to insert this. This is Rachel Reeves getting grilled by Good Morning Britain.
Rachel Reeves. Good morning, Ms Reeves. Can you hear us all right?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to be with you.
You're having quite a morning. Free suits, free glasses, free Taylor Swift tickets, free holidays, and in your case, a free £7,500 worth of posh frocks, which when you declared it, which you did, frankly, it looks as if you were being a bit evasive about it, because you didn't describe them as dresses or clothes. You called it support. Shouldn't you just have been upfront about it and said, I've got a gift of free clothes?
Well, an old friend of mine wanted to support me during the election campaign, and the way that she wanted to support was to help me buy clothes for the campaign trail and for big events, and I was very grateful for that support. We declared it in the proper way, and we asked the registrar the best way to record it, and we did it in the way that was asked of us. I never planned to continue this in government, but it was something that was very beneficial to me during the campaign.
It doesn't look good, does it, to call dresses support? It looks as if you're trying to be vague about it, obfuscating.
Well, look, the way that we record things is the way that we are asked to record things. I do understand why people think it is a bit odd. I get that. It's not something that myself or other ministers are going to continue doing now that we are in government. But political campaigns do rely on donations. I think it is right that the majority of political campaigns is funded by donors, big and small, rather than taxpayers. And I think it is very important that all of that is declared properly so people can judge whether there are, for example, conflicts of interest.
And just this, one thing I've got to point out, she sounds really, really stupid. She really does. And Labour does as a whole. Whether they condemn the far right, whether they condone in the minorities, whether they call for the release of sausages, they just sound idiotic. They do not sound like people you want running your country. I'm just going to put that in there. But here's the video of Rachel Reeves getting grilled by Good Morning Britain. Yeah, I don't really think she has an answer, does she? When you look at where we're at, when you look at where we're going, I know I keep banging this drum every time I make a video. It is to drill it into you, to make you seriously understand where this world is going. None of this is happening by accident. Look at it this way. We are going to see high taxes in the next budget. And you can guarantee that they're going to tax the hell out of your cigarettes, your alcohol, your fuel. All these taxes on your day-to-day life are going to go up, not to mention your income tax, inheritance tax, council tax. Everything is going to be on the increase for, and I quote, a £22 billion black hole. And I've stated this before and I will state it again. The British public pay an average of £820 billion per year. Now think about that. We are crying over a £22 billion black hole, right? Not to mention, so far in their short term, they have wasted, this Labour government has wasted £33 billion in their first few months. In August, our borrowing was over £2 billion higher than what it should be. Our debt is 100% our GDP. That's our gross domestic product. That's our country's worth. Our debt is 100%. And when I say this is done on purpose, this is how we are going to crash the economy, to rebuild, to do away with cash and introduce a CBDC and a universal basic income. When you look at the US, they have hit their debt of 35 trillion. They are now at 100% their GDP. Think about it. The whole Western economy is suffering. It's been on life support for a long time, but now you can see where it is going. And not only that, with the rise of BRICS and the American dollar losing its value, the dollar used to be the dominant currency. The American dollar is failing. The significance of this is the American dollar, for as long as I can remember, has run and dictated the economy of the world. With everything changing, with countries borrowing, with the economy the way it is going to die. And it is going to die really quick. And I am not trying to scaremonger, but this time next year, you will start to see the World Economic Forum's rhetoric of you will own nothing come into place. And I will guarantee that you will not be happy, but they will. Now, what I want you to realize is when this economy does crash, and it is going to, really, really soon, when this happens, you will be told it was beyond their control. There was something significant that happened. That is a lie. Any economist worth their salt can look at the economy as it stands now and see exactly where it's heading. Why aren't they coming out and speaking about it? Why aren't they bringing the information to you? The economy is dying because they are making the economy die, and they are making you suffer. What they're doing now, before they crash the economy, is outpricing you. So you can't afford to maintain your home. You can't afford to maintain your car payments, your mortgage, your day-to-day running of life. If you don't have a mortgage and you own your house, they are trying to force you into a position where you will then have to sell your home. Think about it. You will own nothing and be happy. They don't think you're just going to hand everything over. They are going to do something to make it so you cannot have anything. So then you cannot own anything. Because if I was to come to you and say, I want your house, you would say, fuck off, you know? So you think they outpricing you for a reason. If you will own nothing and be happy, you need to own nothing. That is why the economy is being targeted. And that's why you will hear all these lies, all this rhetoric. And when it comes to lies and rhetoric, I am sick of hearing about the bullshit that it is climate change. If climate change was real, if climate change was such a devastating thing, if climate change was inevitable, why are they still building beachfront properties right next to the sea? Why are millionaires and billionaires buying them? That would be the first thing. If you're worried about sea levels rising and starting to encroach on the land, then the last thing you would do is say, yeah, okay, I'll give you permits to build a beachfront property. Well, that's great. When you build it, I will buy it. And I will also put $2 billion into climate change. Climate change it facilitates the crashing of the economy. Look around the world. how much countries are investing in climate change. Now, do you see where that money goes? Do you see the benefit of what's happening to that money? No, you don't. All you know is someone in a suit come and said to you, yeah, we are investing 11.4 billion in climate change. And you just go, okay, good. Instead of saying, well, when you say invested, how do you mean? What did you do? By what means? How is the climate going to benefit? How am I going to benefit? But we don't. We just say, okay. And all this money is getting siphoned off. If this money's being siphoned off, then that 11.4 billion, what went on to climate change, could have, helped in part of clearing the country's debt. If we got a 22 billion pound black hole, hey, look at that, half it's paid for. But no, you siphon that money off, and then you're running out of money. So you need to raise taxes, which is going to give them the benefit of making you struggle more. So eventually you will have to sell and lose everything. Then they will say they still couldn't do it. The economy's crashing. Oh, we fucked. Here, have yourself a digital currency. It sounds idiotic. I'm not going to lie, it does. But you've got to think about it. I know the way these people think. I have seen them. And I'm shaking my head when I hear people, normal people, repeating what they're saying. And I try to talk to these people, and they give me a BBC News presenter's take on it. Word for word, their response is always a BBC report verbatim. They have no logical thought. They have no individual thought. They do not understand the concept of anything that I'm trying to explain to them. They think they know a story because they were told it. They don't understand it. Now, people like me, and a lot of other people out there, because we are getting more, by the way, we are growing big style. The politicians lie. The billionaires lie. The companies lie. The mainstream media lies. Big tech lies. Big pharma lies. Everything that's in control of the money, the economy, the run of the world are lying to you. They're all in on a big game. And you are the prize. You really are. You think you're important to these people. You're not. You are absolutely nothing to these. You are a stain. They can't wait to get rid of you. So once they're done with the old people, they will then move down the list and come for the rest of you. When I say the economy's crashing, when I say they want you to have nothing, when I say they want to control the whole world, that is true. But there is an end game where you do not exist in this world they build. There will be very few, and with a supposed 9 billion people on the planet, to get that down to around about 500,000 or so, there's got to be something big to happen. It stands to reason that if something big was to happen, you don't want to destroy the whole world to do it, do you? Even if it is a virus, you don't want to risk that virus going rogue and killing people you don't want to. You also don't want to bomb hell out of the whole world. And you certainly don't want to chuck nukes across the world, do you? No, what you would do is you would take people out of countries, generally the nice countries with a nice climate, with the nice heat, and funnel these people together on, something that's at its time. We don't mind losing that. We can rebuild that later down the line. We want the hot area. So we'll just empty everyone from there, put them into there. Oh, that's full. We'll put some in France, we'll put some in Germany, United States, Canada. We'll put them all over the place. Then these places can be cold. They can happily bomb them. They can happily release contagion. They can do whatever they want because they're safe in where they want to be. Think about it. It doesn't take much to think about. Why do you think across the world we have this leftist push? They turn on everyone gay and transgender, no matter which way you look at it, And the one thing that would do is stop breeding, because gays don't tend to reproduce too well. The mechanisms don't work together. Transgenders, to be fair, I've heard a few stories of someone changing the sex and still sleeping with the original people they did in the first place anyway, which they were a man sleeping with a woman, then got a sex change to become a woman so they can now be a lesbian. Yeah, I don't get it either. It makes absolutely zero sense. But that is the world, isn't it? That is where we live. Yay. Intelligence. So, if we keep all these people together and we cause anarchy within these people, and let's say it's the Middle East, the Muslim population, that's the countries they're currently emptying, you know, Muslims and in the Middle East and Africa, you know, bring them over here. They nice big hot areas, aren't they? You cannot lie, they are. And if you were to build on them properly, you could have a nice little life in them countries. So let's put them all over here. Let's keep all the people at odds together so they never actually see and put together what's actually going on and stop us. They too busy fighting amongst themselves because we are going to create divisions so they hate them and they hate them, and we'll just make them fight. That's what we'll do. And then we will start rebuilding, and we will start putting the rest of our plan together. And then all of a sudden, bish bash bosh, human race gone down to the bare minimum. Nobody to complain. Everybody is annihilated. Now, you think depopulation's not on the list, don't you? Yeah, you're in for a surprise. You're in for a proper wake-up call. So, yeah, that went a little bit skew away from where I wanted to. I was just going to talk about the news, but I went off on a tangent again. But I do this because I really need you to understand. I need you to see as I see. And if I'm wrong, I want you to tell me I'm wrong. I want you to point out why I'm wrong. I don't want you to give me a BBC narrative. I want you from your own mind, from your own intelligence, to tell me where I'm wrong. Because I am not going to lie. I really, really, really want to be proved wrong. I would rather go down as a complete idiot, a complete buffoon, than see the world as I see it. But until someone can prove to me otherwise, then that is exactly how I see the world. And yes, I'm not denying. I might be the idiot. I really might. That is down to you to prove. And I'm here, I'm listening, I'm ready, you know? So, if you could prove I'm wrong, it's not a challenge. I am begging you. I am literally begging you. Because I've given up a lot for this belief. I've given up a lot for this fight. And I keep giving up more and more. Now, it would be nice, if I'm wrong, to stop giving up and start living life like everybody else. On that, guys, I'm going to go. Thank you very much. And I'll probably catch you at some point tomorrow with another video.